Okay. And Dr. Stratton, I also wanted to touch on my Imported Seafood Safety
Yes,
Act.
sir.
As
Please.
you know, we've worked on it together. We've talked about it. As you know, it would give states more power to increase seafood inspections for foreign imports
Yes,
in
sir.
conjunction with the federal government. We've talked about this before, essentially empowering you to reinforce the effort of the federal government to put more cops on the beat. We do this in many other areas where the primary regulation is at the federal level, but related state entities can help enforce that. What is your view on that and how it could improve seafood safety?
Mr. Chairman, the American public, when they go to the market, 100% of the mammalian proteins for beef and pork and 99% for poultry. There's a specialty thing for poultry. If you have a very small amount, less than 10,000 chickens, you can sell them, but it's very tiny. But all those proteins are inspected. They are monitored from the farm all the way through slaughter. They're inspected at slaughter, and they are tested and backtraced. The American public believes their seafood that they consume is inspected and safe at that same level. If you look at the CDC report, and I'm going to quote the press release March 14, 2012, it says that we currently import about 85% of our seafood, 60% of our fresh produce, and we currently import about 50% of our crawfish. And I quote, CDC experts reviewed outbreaks from their foodborne disease outbreak surveillance system from 2005 to 2010. During that 5-year period, 39 outbreaks, 2,348 illnesses were linked to imported food from 15 countries. Of those outbreaks, 17 half occurred in 09 and 10. Overall, fish, 17 outbreaks were the most common source of implicated imported foodborne disease outbreaks, followed by spices. Nearly 45% of imported foods causing outbreaks came from Asia. The American public assumes that we are doing this testing. We know that we're not. Less than 3% of the imported seafood. 85% of the seafood consumed in the United States is imported, and less than 3% is being tested. Furthermore, when you look at that particular issue, if you look in a container of seafood, there could be, in the case of crawfish, there could be as up to 20 different lots, different origins coming together. So when you think that it's all a blended product and you take one sample then and that it is consistent with everything in the container, it is not. And when you look at the particular issues that we're talking about antibiotics that are banned from the United States, such as chloramphenicol, chemicals such as malachite green that are banned from the United States. And so when you look at that, you know, it is imperative that we all be on the same level playing field. And when you start talking about why we need to test this seafood, and you say, well, how are we going to stop port shopping? Well, it's very simple, is that we need to make sure that we have eyes on at the processing level in those foreign countries, and I think some of that will take into effect in the future under the Food Safety Modernization Act, but that is somewhere in the future. And that container be accompanied by a certificate stating that it has been tested. And that if that container comes in and you retest that container and it is not what it says, then it can either return directly and be certified to go back to the country of origin or be destroyed on site. Now, our department, I'm responsible, I oversee the Department of Animal Health and Food Safety, and we have a food inspection program. We also work hand in hand with the USDA, Animal Plant Health Inspection Service, to where we do joint meat inspection. We do state plants, and we can work jointly on federal plants where those products can cross state lines. But I am not permitted to test imported seafood. Now, I can look at the containers to make sure that, and as the Commissioner of the Office of Metrology, Weights, Measures, and Standards, that if there's a pound of seafood in it, it's supposed to be a pound. But we're not allowed to take samples and test it for contaminants. So just like we are having a working relationship and we have a cooperative endeavor agreement with the federal government to do the other protein inspections, let us have the same arrangements where my inspectors who are out at those plants looking at other things, and we do label inspections for the federal government as well, give us the authority on a cooperative endeavor agreement to be a further arm. We have testing labs in Louisiana. We do half of the seafood testing.
And so that, if that were done, which I certainly support and am advocating through my bill, that would be fully consistent with the federal standards. It wouldn't be using different standards in any way. You'd just be additional cops on the beat, correct?
That's correct.